Very good afternoon, everyone. Uh, we welcome you in today's webinar, and uh, we have a very well-renowned science filmmaker with us, Mr. A.G.A. Vandela, and I will request Sri Nimish Kapoorji to kindly introduce today's panelist, today's filmmaker to you. So, Nimishji. Sir, can you hear me? Nimishji? Okay, I think...
Samsaji,
yes.
connectivity.
Yeah, but the sound is breaking. I think there is some problem there, connectivity problem. So let me have all the honor. So as we were discussing that we are doing the International Science Film, we are organizing International Science Film Festival of India from 22nd to 25th of December. And due to the pandemic, we are doing it on virtual mode this year. And we had a number of master classes and webinars for you scheduled here. As you know, that today's the first master class is on new trends in science filmmaking. And we are delighted that we are having Mr. A.G.A. Vandela, a science filmmaker from Amsterdam, Netherlands, with us. And as you know, Mr. Vandela was born in Amsterdam, Netherlands, and currently living in Delhi, India. Coming from a culturally oriented family, he loves traveling and exploring new parts of the world. Being very passionate about art and science, he spends most of his time traveling, meeting new people, and working on projects like music videos, commercials, photography, and films. He has been making videos since the age of 19. He wanted to study films and was accepted at the European Film College in Denmark, where he studies filmmaking for a year, getting lectures by some of the great heroes like Mr. Thomas Vinterberg and John Harlan. After his wonderful experience, he started internship at Wet Film and worked on various prize-winning commercials and films in Netherlands for different production houses from 2012 to 2015. He also wrote history by creating a group photo portrait of all Dutch hip-hop artists in 2013. Currently, he is working on his first feature documentary made in India, exploring jugaad and frugal innovations in India. So, a very warm welcome to you, Vandela. I must say, a very long journey from music video and commercials to the science film. So how do you feel your journey here?
Yeah, it's definitely been a very, very rich journey. And I'm definitely in a different space now than I was, let's say, 5-10 years ago. Not only by, physical location, like I'm really in a different country and I have a very different life now, but also that I kind of decided to develop my own taste and style of filmmaking, which in Amsterdam was not the case at that time. I was mostly participating to other people's vision. And now I have been for the past few years developing my own vision as an independent filmmaker. And science is a big part of that. But in the future, humanities will also be pretty much entrenched into the topics of my films. I hope that everyone can hear me well.
Yeah, we are hearing you loud and clear.
Okay, that's great. Then I'll just give kind of an introduction of what I've been doing in India for the past few years, and how that journey came to be. So I decided to come to India on a normal backpacking trip. I was basically working a lot in the Netherlands, and I wanted a bit more than just a 2-week beach vacation. So I was kind of in doubt about going to Thailand for 2 weeks or doing something more substantial, which was like, doing maybe like a Vipassana or like a spiritual journey and, really relax and unwind in a different way. And at that time, my career coach was very much involved in India from her student times. And she recommended me to go to the north of India at that time. It was like, early April, May. So then season time would start there. And she said, yeah, that's perfect for now. So I decided to book India, and not knowing that it would change my life forever in a point of no return type of way. I landed in Delhi, and I was just fascinated by India, and not only fascinated by India as a country, but mostly about how things function in a country like India and how things can improve and innovate in a country like India. Because we in the West have heard a lot about India's growth story. And I thought that would be quite a challenge on that scale, and how would that go? And I ran into a book called Jugaad Innovation at that time in a mall in Delhi. And I'd heard the word a bit here and there, and I thought like, okay, this might be that kind of Indian way of developing and innovating. And when I read that book, I decided to contact the author of the book, because I wanted to turn the book into a film series. At that time, it was a feature-length documentary. And later I decided to turn it into a series, because I touched on many different topics and I wanted to compartmentalize that a bit for the viewer. But that book gave me a lot of insight into India's ground realities and India's diversity, and therefore also different needs in different parts of the country. So I knew that, because at that time when I was, doing research for the film, I was really looking for that next big thing in India that would change the country forever. And of course, you have your geos or your ATMs of the kind, but more physical innovations, that really improve people's lives on a day-to-day. Those were very specialized and very geographically and contextually based. And I found that very interesting. And therefore, I decided to change the topic of the film a bit towards how different sectors in India can innovate for different types of people. And not knowing that a lot of the things that I mentioned in the documentary would actually become even more relevant than they already were at the time that I made it, post-pandemic times. So in a bit, I would like to share a clip of the first episode, which is about India's big migration wave and urban development, and the fact that the urban planner and urban innovator who I spoke to in that episode, they advocate for rural urbanization. So these are people from Pune who are kind of, let's say, the last of the metropolitan cities to, really follow in the footsteps of all the mega cities in India, who kind of discovered that there's a limit to how big cities can get. And therefore, it would be better to create the jobs and the facilities for these people outside of the cities, maybe where they're originally from, to not congest cities more and to, put more pressure on them than is already there. Because we're not even talking about being annoyed by being in traffic on a day-to-day, but we're talking about like how much water is there, how much availability of waste management is there. So we're talking about very finite things that cannot just keep on growing. And after the pandemic, as many people moved back to their hometowns, that became a big opportunity for India to rethink how India can develop after this. So the fact that, even in the United States, where now more than 1 million people have left New York, more than 1 million people have left Los Angeles also, it gives us a new way of thinking about where we want to live, how we want to live. And this is an example of that. We are basically working from home right now. And a lot of the things are not location driven anymore. And I think that India should now look at what can we do to kind of divide the pressure of, business and labor evenly over the geographical space that is India, instead of focusing it on basically 2-3 metro cities versus 25 in China, which I don't think are realistic for India at this time. I think it's better to kind of give up the dream of what Amitabh Kant said, 500 metropolitan cities in India before the year of 2030. I don't think that is realistic. But I will now share the screen of that episode, and then you can watch it, and then we'll continue.
Okay.
Okay.
Why would somebody leave a bigger space in a village, come and live in a slum with no guarantee of a job, right? And then work the streets or maybe do things that they would not have normally done because they're not trained, right? They're farmers primarily. Why are we not taking care of them in the villages?
300 million migrants will be flocking to Indian cities in the next decade. How can India integrate so many people in an urban environment while maintaining their quality of life? In 1.7, we take a look at India's growth and how India can develop and innovate for the largest population the world has ever seen.
Right now, cities are a buzz. It's the new in thing. But sadly, I don't think like few Indian cities can absorb, and I'm calling it absorb. Our Prime Minister called it "Garibi Bachata hai." Like it's going to digest. Cities are going to digest poverty, right? In some cases they might, but mostly they're not going to. They're going to make people poorer for it. Maybe not monetarily, but with their quality of life, yes.
When you have masses of people migrating, you have a mass identity of that lot. And you have masses who are living in the city, there is a mass identity of that lot. When the mass identity of the migrants is much higher number of people are there, I think that starts, getting rid of the original identity of the city.
India's biggest challenge is this process of urbanization. Every minute there are 30 Indians moving from rural areas to urban areas. India requires by 2030 500 new cities of 1 million each. New urbanization is necessary. India has been a reluctant urbanizer. So cities are centers of growth. Cities are centers of dynamism. Cities are centers of prosperity. Cities are centers of new.
So I think you're muted still.
Yeah. So one, before you proceed further, if our viewers want to watch your films,
Yes.
Will you kind enough to give us the link? What is the link where they can go and watch your film?
Yeah, so initially it was distributed by Amazon Prime in the US and the UK. And then I tried to get it to be distributed in India. But that process is quite long for Amazon. And the channel that I had a deal with, which is called Digital Next and Digital In, IN, had some trouble after the pandemic. So I decided to put it on YouTube last week because I had a lot of requests from people from India who wanted to watch it. I haven't been promoting it yet or sharing it yet, but if you go to my YouTube channel, Andreas Vandelaar, the first 3 episodes are now online, and the 4th episode I will upload it next week. But that channel has finally picked up, and they got their operations back on. So you will also see it on this new Indian channel, which is called Next Digital. So it's now widely available, so you can all see it.
So I will request all these attendees and our viewers to, whenever they get the time, please go to the YouTube and go and watch Vandelaar's film there. Yes, definitely. The YouTube channel has also the full interviews of the people that I have met and spoke to for the project. So there's also a lot of unseen footage of like the full interviews. Vandelaar, one question: like when you come, you visited Delhi, and then you came across this Jugaad thing. So why you decided to make a film on this Jugaad thing, and what is your understanding by this Jugaad thing, and does it give you a little idea about the scientific temper which is there in the general masses of India?
Well, first of all, I stopped liking the word Jugaad as much, despite using the book as an inspiration for the film project. I more identify with Frugal Innovation, which is the follow-up book by the same author, because Jugaad has kind of negative undertones in it. And as I live longer in India myself, I also see that, yes, Jugaad is maybe not the way we should call it. And maybe Jugaad is also the reason that some things are not really innovating, because it's too short term. And the fact that frugal innovation has actually long-term effects, and it's actually very smart and very sustainable sometimes. I think that is still that Jugaad in the way that it is affordable, it is very easy to use, it's very durable, but it doesn't have that kind of shortcut, that shortcut undertone in it. So in that way, I would like to step off that word a bit more. But yes, India is basically a birthplace of a lot of very smart, inventive people. And it's also a very entrepreneurial country. And one of the things of the current prime minister, which is good, is that entrepreneurial spirit is being honed more and is also being respected more. I remember when the crisis hit in Europe, that a lot of white collar jobs got lost, and a lot of people became freelancers or entrepreneurs, and that transition was actually a very difficult one. But in India, a lot of people are already freelancers. Actually, most people are freelancers. And to be an entrepreneur or a freelancer, you have to invent yourself or your product in a way that people would be interested into buying it, whether it's an actual innovation or whether it's trying to warm up food in a remote place with a makeshift gas stove. And now there are also a lot of maker spaces in India, one of which is featured in the series, which is called Maker's Asylum, who have moved from Bombay to Goa, which by itself is an immediate, kind of innovation by itself, because it's a company that said, like, do we need to be in Bombay where rents are super high? Or do we just move the whole place to a location which is more suitable for frugal innovations to actually be created, and therefore also make it accessible to more people, because the fees and the lectures can be done online. So the fees can be lower and the lectures can be done online. And that kind of spirit is definitely here in India. It's a very one of the main aspects of frugal innovation is that kind of adaptability as you go along with a project or with a business, to just decide in one go to just close up shop, move it somewhere else, and do the exact same thing of the same quality in that location, but cater it to that exact place. And I think for a country of the scale of India, it is not wise to kind of fixate on a long-term goal and obsess about it in a way that you kind of remove all new trends or new realities that are coming up to fix that ideal image of where the country should go. I think it should be a more, as India develops, new things should be taken up fast, and as India goes along, it should develop more organically instead of like a fixed image. And that's also how I approached the project.
So now taking this clue, like as the things are growing, we are incorporating new things, new techniques. So when we talk about the filmmaking, you certainly are using so many new innovative techniques and jigmos and things. So in India, generally, we think that it's very difficult to make a film because you need costly equipment and this and that and such a big, large crew. But now, as the technology is improving and it's becoming, I can say, democratization of the things and the gizmos and everything, which is helping the new filmmakers to make a film. So all these attendees which are here and which are listening us, what like how please let us know what kind of techniques or kind of jigmos and what kind of handy equipment you are using to make films, and is it still difficult to make film, or it is now easy, anyone can make a film after having this mobile phone in the hand?
Yeah, it depends on how you look at it. So as I kind of continue like on the tangent I was actually on, is that I came here with an ideal image of how a film should be made. And it was actually a more romantic image, which was very based on, the masters that I, admired at the European Film College, who made really touching and beautiful, feature films or documentaries with a big budget. And that is the way it's supposed to be. And then fast forward to a 2017, 18 reality, and subsidies being very slow and also inaccessible for independent filmmakers who don't want to follow an agenda of a government who all of a sudden wants to put a spotlight on certain topics that they like, that I don't personally feel interested in. I felt interested in the rise and also importance of India as being 1/5 of the world population, and I had to reinvent how I could still get that cinematic touch. So I did want a cinematic vibe to the film, because that is really like where my passion lies. So I really wanted to have beautifully neoclassical composed music. But then I had to compromise on how I would shoot it, because at some point as time went on, after I arrived in India to make this film, the pressure started mounting, like, how will I do this? And at that time, I had an iPhone 7 Plus, and I had a phone Steadicam, and it was like, it felt like it wasn't good enough. But then that iPhone 7 Plus got stolen, and I had to get a cheaper version. I had to get that iPhone SE phone, which is like that small iPhone, because I didn't want to waste more of my savings, because at that time I had to get started after a few months. And then the acceptance came that I can shoot it on the mobile phone. I have my appointments with the people that I want to speak to and follow for the film. And yeah, this is HD quality. The microphone is fine. Maybe next time I will invest in a microphone, but right now it's not required. And I will do the rest in the editing phase. And that's exactly what I did. So the iPhone 7 Plus, which is like higher quality and everything, even that I had to compromise on. And then as I went, I had to accept that it was going to be shot on an iPhone SE. And then as I went along, I spoke to more people, got to know new things, which led me into new directions. So I very intuitively and organically developed this story and project without fixating on where I wanted it to go. You know, of course, it was a dream to have it on an Amazon Prime or a Netflix, and I thought I had a fair shot, but I stopped, you know, focusing on that too much, and I started to be the project, which was a frugal filmmaker, you know, a frugal, innovative filmmaker who creates, you know, a project or a product, whatever you want to call it, from scratch with the tools in hand, without, you know, wanting to overreach, you know, because it's also what they say about startups is that, you know, after, you know, the first or second investment rounds, it's all about scale. It's all about, you know, bringing it to the masses. And then a lot of these startups, they overreach, they have too much overhead, and they collapse, or they have to keep on injecting more money into the company that is not yet making profits, and that's not yet really understanding the realities of bringing a product to such a big scale. And in that sense, I was kind of like one of these chaiwalas who went to a place where chai was required, or where people would buy chai, and would just make that chai with the tools he had, whether that was a simple gas stove or whether that was a more spectacular gas stove. I did it with a phone and myself as the engine of the project without having to pay anyone else. And then at the end, I still, you know, delivered that quality that would make it as if it wasn't shot on a mobile phone. And yeah, with that, I'm very happy that I managed to actually do that in this way.
As you were talking about the managing the film, the way you managed, on the same line, I had a question from Ananda Kishore Das, one of our attendees. He is asking, in science film, which kind of film is more important, story-based or bare documentary, like the fact?
Bare documentary, what does that mean? Like just documenting what is?
Just documentary, saying what it is as it is, or making, saying like a fiction film, or making a story around it. So what do you think?
I think that it really depends on the topic. I think that if you make a science film, let's say about a scientist, and it's more of a humanities-based approach to science, then it would be more interesting to follow the emotional journey and the emotional story of a scientist's personal journey to undertaking whatever that person is undertaking. And in that sense, you would have to capture a process which is then happening with that person that has a beginning, middle, and an end. So, for example, that person has, you know, high aspirations of bringing, let's say, a vaccine to people. Then it would be nice to see that person tackling the problem first, finding challenges, tackling that problem, all the way to the vaccine being certified and ready to, you know, save a lot of lives. But what I did was more premise based. So the premise was, is it realistic that 300 million migrants will move to these already existing metropolitan cities that are already as big as they can get? And then I took the documentation of different people who specialize in that field, and every quote I used to sustain and answer that premise question. I think bare documentary is not to be underestimated. But if you want to kind of create finite project, so with, you know, a beginning and an end, you have to have a premise or a story. But bare documentary is what is actually maybe even going to become the norm, because as people are live streaming more, this, for example, is also a bare documentary. As people are posting Instagram stories, Facebook stories, going live, that's all bare documentary. And depending on what you document, that value can be very high. You know, let's say we had a farmer's march. If you are there documenting that farmer's march, there's no preparation or production involved, but you are documenting something of relevance in that moment that is happening at that moment. But science film is a specific niche, and in my opinion, and also obviously to the opinion of Nimish and people at Vigyan Prasar are trying to promote science film. I think it's more about the content and the story, because people are attracted to stories, and science, which is viewed as something very complex, something nerdy, or maybe even boring. If you want to overturn that kind of sentiment, then I think a story and finding an interesting story within the science realm and casting the people in that story really well. So finding the right person who has a certain charisma or has a certain life or goal which is inspiring is more important than just bare documenting. So for science, story-based is definitely the way to go, in my opinion.
Okay, so it means, yeah, bare documentary is good, is trending, but when we talk about science, where the facts matters, the data matters, we have to have a story, a fixed way to go. So now taking this point, like generally people first find the story and then research it and then go and make a film and edit it. But how do you conceive a project, and how do you implement? What is your process? What are the steps you are taking to making a documentary? Do you try to find a subject first and then research a lot and then finalize everything and then go for shooting, or you like how you do?
Well, at the beginning of this year, another topic for my next project found me more than anything else. And I think a part of that is to keep on moving, keep on meeting new people, keep on talking about new trends, or talking about what someone else is doing or what's happening here, what's happening there. Because in that way, the story comes to you more than that. Again, what I try to say, that you fixate on an idea. So after the festival round, I went down to Bangalore to start, orienting for a new project. And at that time, I wanted to make a film about ISRO, about the moon journey. It's a fixated idea. It's an ambitious idea. ISRO is very complicated, bureaucratic environment. Would they allow documentary filmmakers to just, walk in and out of that place? So it was kind of a let's see if that will happen type of documentary. And as I was in Bangalore, a friend of mine called me over to have a cup of coffee. And he basically gave me a new idea of a film, which I then started researching after he gave it to me. I'm not going to not going to give that idea
No
away.
problem, no problem. We just want to know the process you use, the process you apply in your filming.
So as he explained to me about that idea, it resonated with me because both my father and my mother were working in humanities. My mother was an anthropologist and my father was a social worker. And this topic was really about rehabilitating people into society. And that's what my father was doing. And I learned a lot from him about that topic as I was growing up. And I knew that there was a potential for people who, with all odds against them, would still be able to make the needed adjustments to function in society in a fruitful way, no matter what they had experienced growing up. And I still wanted to maybe do the ISRO and space-based film at that time, but I felt that this was closer to my heart and it interested me more. And then, it just goes automatically from there. So you come across an idea, it resonates with you, and then pretty much automatically you start picking up the phone, you start sending emails, you start reading academic research on the topic, you start looking it up. And for this project, I wanted it to be not shot with a phone. So what I did was I got a Ronin, which is like a Steadicam for a DSLR. I got a really nice lens, which has a very, very amazing depth of field and also amazing dynamic range, so that I could again shoot it by myself with tools that would accommodate just one person. Because on a normal film shoot, you actually need a focus puller on a lens, like a camera assistant. And I don't prefer working with too many people. I prefer to keep it very organic and almost be invisible as I shoot. So I just lifted the quality up with one step, very small, attainable step. And I took the criticism from my previous project and took it along with me during the preparations for this project, which I will be starting on next year after the dust settles a bit more. And I will make a more story, human-driven film, which is more interesting and more engaging for more people, because this is a very intellectual documentary, for example.
Okay, so it won't be a fiction film, but it will be a people-driven documentary film.
Yeah, it will be about people on the fringes of society who try to regain their confidence to be able to get back into that society. Yeah.
Coming back to the science films again, like what we have seen in the International Science Film Festival of India, where we are screening more than 211 films from 32 different countries. Like we had received a number of science fiction movies also. So we had documentary films, short and long, up to 35 minutes, and then we have science fictions. So we had a question from Dr. Arvind Raja, a teacher from Pondicherry. So he wanted to ask what makes a good science fiction movie. But I had extended the question to what makes a good science fiction, whether it's a movie or it's a documentary. I think the certain qualities should be same. So what are
Well, the secret to a good science fiction movie is the research. So most of the great science fiction movies that have been out there have been based on actual academic research from either NASA, Silicon Valley, and in India, based on the actual workings of ISRO. These institutions plan decades ahead, and in some cases even more. In some cases, for example, the great Lumiere brothers film about the man going to the moon was based on the work of philosophers and scientists of that time who were already theorizing about the potential of, something maybe going to the moon someday, and that would actually be possible, and if it would be possible, how. So that prophetic qualities of films are based on actual things that are happening or being developed, and the film is kind of a visual presentation of that happening in real life. And that's why many of the films, science fiction films that have been made in the past decades, are now becoming, more real than we could imagine. But that's because the actual likelihood of those things happening was actually pretty big. So the way technology is now, dominating our lives almost, that was already decided a long time ago. And those systems were already designed a long time ago. The internet is much older than people think. It was first used for military. But if you were a documentary filmmaker who was on their profession at that time, or a director who was on their profession at that time, looking for a new subject, and you knew where to go, and you knew the right people to talk to, then they would tell you, like, yeah, we're working on a thing called the internet, and one day everybody will be able to do video calls on Zoom or whichever program. And now it may seem weird, but this is our thesis. And then they would show the filmmaker, like Stanley Kubrick, for example, had strong ties with NASA, and now Christopher Nolan also has strong ties with NASA because of Interstellar. So he was on the spot where the future things were being developed, and he had a complete mood board of documents that he could base his script on. And the only thing that these directors have to do to make it a good science fiction movie is to follow the human experience of being in a spaceship or being alone on Mars, like that Matt Damon movie. Like, how would that be as a human being? So that emotional journey of overcoming challenges and following the hero's journey in those films, that makes it a great science fiction movie backed up by actual science, actual things that are being worked on, and that being the backdrop of what these people are experiencing. And that has been done very well, for example, in a film called AI, where the robot has become more human than actual humans. And those things are very interesting philosophical questions that come up as you're researching, new science, like what consequences will this have for society? And those questions, with the identification of a human being experiencing those questions in the film, make a great relevant science fiction movie, in my opinion.
So now coming back to your work and the current situation, like if I want to make a film or a science documentary or a science film, now I had I had find my subject, I had researched in it, and I had an idea how to do it. Now what will be my next step? What kind of equipment do I need? The same question which I asked you earlier, that do I need costly equipment? Because most of the people who wanted to be a filmmaker or a film student who wants to take this as a career, they cannot afford that kind of equipment, that kind of money which the big filmmakers are having. So can you tell our viewers that what kind of equipment, what kind of thing they can go for and come up with the great quality of film? Not only the equipment, but also when we talk about after shooting, the editing and all these things, because there are so many free stuffs are also available. Is it good to use free editing stuff, or should they go for the costly one? All these so many questions which are there in the mind of a film student or a film aspirant who want to make a film, or a scientist who want to make a film on his work.
Get free editing stuff. That's it. Not going to advocate piracy here, but I am saying do whatever you can to achieve your dreams in a way that is possible and realistic for yourself in that moment. So I can even take it a step further. I was locked down in Himachal, okay? And at some point it was taking so long that I kind of really got that itch of, I want to do something again. I want to create again. So what do I have now to create a new project? I have a laptop and I can make a film about myself, an autobiographical film, using video calls, recorded video calls with people from my past, telling things about my personality, my behavior, and my life story. So my first film was a film based on a mobile, shot on a mobile phone. And the second film was an autobiographical film using video calls recorded on a laptop. And then it's not a finished project yet. And some of the video call quality is not good enough, so I will have to probably reshoot it, parts of it. But yes, that is possible. So, and you can shoot a film on a mobile phone, and you can shoot a film using a laptop, using a webcam. And the only thing you have to do, again, so my plan with that laptop film is to add beautiful music, nice, old pictures, and then it gets that cinematic feel again. And of course, you can see that they're video calls, but that doesn't matter because the content and the music still drags you in as you are experiencing a real film, a real story about someone. So I made it even smaller than with the mobile film because I made it independent of location. So I didn't need to shoot on multiple locations, which is the biggest hassle.
I'm just disturbing you again. One thing you talk about music. So I just wanted to talk about it a little because this what the time for these 2 months when we are doing the online film festival, what is one of the biggest problem for the film festival organization like us is that the filmmakers are not using the original music. So whenever we want to show it online, it says that copyright problem, and sometimes it's blocked the film or block the film on certain region. So if I'm an independent filmmaker, I'm making a film, and certainly the music is extremely important for the flow of the film. If I go and I use some pre-recorded music of someone, which earlier people used to do, then I cannot show it in the changing scenario, because the YouTube or the other will not allow me to new music. It will be, I cannot do it because I don't have that kind of budget. So what you will suggest to the filmmakers, that what to do with the music, and how to choose and from where to choose, so that it is not infringing any copyright thing.
Use Twitch. So again,
Twitch is a website.
So again, Twitch is a company that understood that live streaming was going to be the norm, and it specialized initially in live streaming gaming. But what it soon discovered was that music was one of the carrying and most memorable, obviously, factors of gaming, because you hear the same songs in a video game, you know? And for artists, being in a video game was a very big driving factor for their careers most of the time. So what started happening was that independent artists, started plugging their music, which is non-diegetic music. So it's just a person playing a video game, having his or her Spotify on as they're video gaming, of that independent artist's music while they're playing the video game. And as people were watching how this amazing game player would be playing their video game, they would be hearing on all these different channels the latest independent good music that was out there, because Twitch relies on that economy. You know, that is their economy. It is about promoting new talent, so they don't have any copyright infringements, because most of the time it's...
So if I go to Twitch and they can let me download the music.
Yes. So you see the artist. So in the description, the artist that's playing in the live stream, because I could also just put on music right now. Like I could just have like a soft music right now, and then Mr. Das would ask me, wow, he's playing really nice music in the background, who's that new artist? And then I would just tell him here, and then I would be promoting that artist by default. But I could also have a film playing on Twitch, so live streaming that film, and Twitch would just allow it. Because
so people can go to Twitch, they can download music from there, and they can use this music in their documentary or short film, and it won't be a copyright violation of any kind.
No, because you can contact the artist from that description, so you know who to contact. But as a film festival, you can also show your films there without these copyright issues. Because the reality is that Facebook, has kind of underestimated the way people use content. And they're such a big company. Let me type it here.
Yes. So it's twitch.com, friends, TWITCH.com.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so Facebook underestimated how content would be distributed and consumed. And then, apps like Snapchat and Twitch started coming up, who basically in the case of Snapchat designed stories, Instagram and Facebook stories before they had thought about that. And Twitch has completely taken over the live streaming market of the latest thing that's going on at that moment. And they knew that if they would restrict it, they would not be able to attract the necessary crowd who doesn't want that many complications. So Twitch is still very much open to play music and without making any issues, because SoundCloud, YouTube, and Facebook, and also I think Instagram maybe. No, I think Instagram doesn't have it. But those three are definitely very complicated. And then TikTok came. And TikTok is also very reliant on music. So you can't then, restrict people from playing music. So actually TikTok and Twitch are very good places to circumvent that issue.
But as TikTok is banned in India, so Twitch is the place where we can go, and probably the Creative Commons music also can be used. So I will request all these filmmakers and inspiring filmmakers to kindly search for Creative Commons copyright-free music before using it into your film, because that creates a lot of problem for the festivals like us. Now, as we have only half an hour left, so I'm not going to disturb you again soon. So kindly let us go back, and we were talking about the equipment which anyone can use for the filmmaking.
So, if you are now at home, I suggest a laptop. Try to see what minimum subject. So I chose as a subject, like a scientific subject, I chose myself. So I wanted to investigate and analyze myself through the perspectives of people who have experienced me in different phases in my life, to create a kind of coherent image of who I was in this world. So it's like an identity piece, but with a kind of scientific investigative approach through the knowledge base of the people who know me best, who know the subject best, which are my family, friends, former colleagues, etc. And yeah, a lot of people are probably in the cities right now, and they most likely have much better Wi-Fi connection than I had in the mountains. So you have a microphone and you have a camera there, and you can pretty much interview anybody you want. So let's say you want to make a documentary about farmers' issues in India. You go sit in front of your laptop, you contact the people you believe are best equipped to speak about that topic. You interview them in a video call mode. You can even decide whether you want to be in the frame or not. You just keep you just record your subject. And then after that, you edit all these perspectives and opinions, or science that these people speak about. You edit it together with downloaded editing software you have. That could be iMovie on Apple, but you can also download Final Cut. And then after that, you start editing. If you can't afford a composer, which I fortunately could, you take royalty-free music, which you can download on YouTube, but also different websites. And as long as that music suits the emotional weight of whatever is being said or experienced in the film, it will work. songs have been recycled and reused in many different ways, and they've had different effects because of it. The same song can have a completely different effect when it's used in a different way than before. So don't underestimate the quality of royalty-free music. I think we have another Q&A. Yeah, so you can use iMovie, or you can download older versions of Premiere. Yeah. But listen, I have to go to the washroom really bad because I've been drinking coffee, so I'm going to take a 1-minute washroom break. You're muted.
So why don't you, in the meantime, why don't you play something, some film of yours, so that in the meantime,
I will do that.
Yes.
I'll do a scene from the fourth.
Yeah, so when you share the screen, please do tick share sound and optimize for video clips, so that
I will do that. One
yes.
second. Yeah, this one. Where is it now? Yeah. Is it sharing?
Yes, it is.
Our system, which we have inherited from the British, spreads responsibility too much and doesn't leave people the opportunity to have the authority, the budgetary control, and the decision-making capacity to actually get anything done. Until 2035, 17 out of the 20 fastest-growing cities in the world will be located in India. Some of these cities will have larger populations than most countries. But how do you effectively govern these settlements? In this episode, we explore ideas of urban governance and how India can transit into more autonomous cities run for and by the citizens. The reason that the bill matters, it seems to me, is because we don't have enough executive authority down at the grassroots levels, whether it's a village council, whether it's a city or a town, and for that matter, whether it's a state government or a central government. I'm very much in favor of directly elected people who are accountable to their voters.
We are all driven by the vision of Gandhi. Gandhi had a vision of village republics, where he understood what it was about, governing a village, and he made a distinction between representative democracy and participatory democracy, where he argued, and rightly so, something I believe in, that it was the voice of the majority that needed to be listened to and not of representatives of the voice of the majority, and that you needed to have therefore an ability that you could listen to people and act and that democracy in the true senses. Now, clearly in the new India, which is it's more populated, it's also more diverse, it's also more casteist, it has lots of layers in it. How do you create that democratic framework in which the voice of the weakest is listened to?
Devolution of powers in India is not new. Devolution of powers to rural areas, we look at Panchayati Raj, started many decades ago. And that has worked to a large extent, where essentially you cut through the bureaucracy, red tapeism, different governments, and go directly from the center to the local panchayats or villages. I personally believe the same should be followed in urban areas. It should be made almost mandatory. And some state governments have that, some states don't. In a state like Tamil Nadu, they have a direct elected mayor concept.
So if you go to China, you're a businessman, you want to start a factory, you meet the mayor. The mayor has the capacity to say yes, to grant you the license for the product you want to make, to allot the land, give you the electricity connection, the water connection, help you hire the workers, and you know what wages that you pay there, and the routes to your market or to your port where you want to get the goods out. That's obviously too much, but the fact that one person has all this authority means that the decision for the businessman is very much easier. Whereas in India, you go to the mayor, you find he's a glorified chairman of a committee, and nobody on the committee has the power either, and they go around in circles, and various influences have been brought and bear in various areas, and finally the actual budget will be signed off by an unelected bureaucratic official called the municipal commissioner. All of these things are privileging inefficiency in our local government.
Our municipal commissioner would never go around the city and say, hey, that new shop is built in the road setback. Ward officer, why haven't you reported this? He would never do that. He doesn't want to upset the guy who owns the illegal shop. Or the guy who owns the illegal shop may own 20 illegal shops. And maybe his elected representative in the municipal corporation. A young municipal commissioner does not want to rock the boat and start challenging the powers that be in his city. He's going to be transferred into another job in 3 years now, and preferably a higher job, and a higher job, and a higher job. So he's never going to be a leader.
Now, the mayor of the city in the Indian context is irrelevant. It is the chief minister of the state who calls the shots, or the city minister. The state government is in charge of the local government, and that's a big part of our dysfunctional governance system. We need to have mayors in charge of our cities. We need to give more power to our cities and an empowered mayor. We have rosy notions about London and New York, but our mayors don't have those kind of powers at all. And the state government is loath to give that. So we need to break that, and that's going to take time because there is no incentive for the state government to let go of their powers.
There's always going to be a mismatch between the city and the state. And even in Mumbai or in Bangalore or in any other city, the state would want control. And it's not necessarily just about funds and resources. It's also about political control. When you have party politics coming into this, more than a person representing their constituency, they're representing the party. And that's when you start having humongous discrepancies in decision making at the local level. Because I don't see how a party will know what the people want all the time, right? They will know in certain situations, but all the time you need a system that is informing them all the time. You need a system that's monitoring the situation all the time. You need a system where I, as a citizen, because I've paid my taxes and because I love this space that I live, it's my city, it's my home, right? Which I'm protective about, which I should be, right? I should be given the ability to even suggest policy.
Even if all 30,000 people in my ward met and said, look, we want the money spent on this park here, all 30,000, the way the law is structured, if the corporator elected by us says, sorry, I refuse to spend the money on the ward, it doesn't get spent. So we have a law which has lip sympathy for citizen participation, but gives veto power to the corporator. So we need to unlock this. We need to actually reframe these constructs where the voice of the citizen, it's a quasi-referendum if I can call it that, can overturn what the corporator wants to do.
In order to influence urban policy, the citizen requires tangible evidence. In Pune, a new app called iNagrik does exactly that. By reporting and documenting urban surroundings with the app, the citizens gather peer-reviewed data to give insight to urban planners and the municipal corporation to see where changes and improvements can be made. With Indian cities growing at a rapid speed, the support of the citizens can lead to progressive and democratic decision-making.
We have population explosion where I don't think the government has the capacity to keep up with whatever impacts that are taking place. Because Pune was 1 million, I think, 20 years ago. And now it's suddenly like 5 million almost. Okay, so in 20 years, it's like 5 times, right? And I don't think the departments like upgraded or like brought in enough manpower to meet that 5-time increase in the population.
This whole material is built to get the children on board. Actually, Siddharth has done a brilliant piece of work. That is, he's saying he's getting the children to observe the reality and to document it and to report it.
Actively, there's about 500 children, but about 5,000 have been trained. Citizens who keep taking care of the city will be more proud of the city, and if they're more proud of the city, they'll be more proud of their country, and they'll contribute better. Pune is highly unwalkable in some parts, and it is highly walkable in some other parts. Based on the data that we got, and I think we got something like 500 inputs on walkability from around the city. One is that the road has no footpath, and the side of the road is blocked by parked vehicles. Seems to be like the biggest problem. Like 37.36% reports came about vehicles that are parked on the side of the road that are blocking pedestrians from making any progress. So I think we walked about 300 meters, and we've had like maybe one obstacle, which is great. Look at that. That's what? A foot deep? Like that's see that? Wow. That's dangerous. If we create this evidence,
Hello, Juan, are you back?
the public, then you can push it into policy. So that's the whole exercise for citizens, that they keep creating evidence.
Yes. So, So as we are only 10 minutes left in our hand.
Yeah.
So if anyone want to ask anything, any question, please write it down here. So I do have few questions that I want to ask. Like it's from a very good afternoon to you, sir. This is Shireen from Firozpur, Punjab. And Shireen wants to know, what is your favorite film that doesn't use 3-act structure, and why did it work for you? So I want to understand what's 3-act structure first, and then these films.
So what is my favorite film that doesn't use a 3-act structure? Yeah, it's a difficult question because I like thematic movies most. So movies that follow a theme more than a 3-act structure. I think that Man Bites Dog, it's a Belgian film, it's a Belgian documentary, follows basically documents a man's life as he goes on his, particularly and peculiar business on a day to day. And because that man is a very interesting and in some way also flamboyant character, you're so engaged that that you just keep watching, and you don't really care about him, you know, saving the world or, you know, solving a very complex problem. So I think that that when the subject is engaging and fascinating enough, it can definitely overcome 3-act structure. So I would say Man Bites Dog. Yeah.
The another question is from Mr. AGA to you, sir. Okay, no, it's from you only. The YouTube royalty free music they can use. So, are there certain YouTube music which are royalty free? How can they find it there? How they will go and find this royalty free music on YouTube?
Yeah. So I replied to start with the YouTube royalty free music. They have a very big library there, and otherwise, let me check for Indian music, for example. Yeah, I think Premium Beat. Premium Beat, but it requires a membership, a paid membership. But they have a big collection of Indian royalty-free music as well. But if you look at the price of having a composer compose an original score, as opposed to buying that, I think $10 or $12 membership, then you've gained a lot of ground.
Yeah, you are correct. Like if I can get a good quality of music in less than 1% of the expenditure, that will be a good idea.
Yeah, for $10, if you get a library for $10, with which you can score your whole film, then you've won big time.
Yeah, it's like 600-700 rupees paying and then getting a big library. Yeah, very good. Exactly. Nice idea. Another question which I have received is from Isha Parelkar, and she wanted to ask, can you please share the links? Isha, can you please can you suggest some free and good video editing software?
I think I replied to that question earlier.
Yeah, and then one from KM Serene again.
Are they not visible?
No, I was not able to. Can you please write it down here?
All panelists only. I thought that was all panelists and attendees.
Yeah. Attendees and panelists.
Yeah. Then let me now put those. So we have twitch.com for circumventing copyright issues. Then Premium Beat. and YouTube royalty free. And we have a question about camera for video-based sports motion capture.
Yes, yes.
That would basically be for sports motion capture. I suggest a wide lens on a DSLR camera that can record from 50 to 100 frames per second so that you can capture all the motion.
When can you also suggest some of the free softwares which are there for editing available freely?
That was the other one. iMovie, and you can download an older version of Premiere Pro. And there are also apps to edit films, but I don't really use those. So you would have to look through your Android Google Play Store, because I have an iPhone and there's less availability there. But on Android, you have a lot of free editing apps. And if you have to pay, it's only like a few dollars. So it's like for $2 or something, you can buy editing software on a mobile phone. Because Final Cut Pro, if you had to buy it, it's like a couple of $100. So don't underestimate editing on your phone. There are very good apps out there in the Google Play Store. You just have to check the reviews, because I don't use Android. But I know a lot of people that do.
Okay, so any specific Android software, Android-based software you want to mention it here?
Yeah, I'll type it. 1 second. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've used InShot. It's available on video editing apps. Very easy to use, and they have all the settings that are required to get a quality product out there.
Thank you, Van, because
can do.
Yeah, so as we are out of time, so before we conclude the session, I will also request you to write down your YouTube channel so that the viewers can go and watch whatever films you have posted there.
So if you want to watch the episodes that I shared clips of, you can go to this link, and please subscribe, because more content will be available. Please like subscribe and share, because I just put them on there. So we want more people to watch them.
One hand raised from Mustafa. Mustafa, you can write down your question here so that quickly we can answer.
I use color correction, and I use DaVinci or Final Cut Pro for simple color correction. And you can find really good free tutorials on YouTube to get you started.
Okay, so this was a session with Mr. E.G. Vandar, and if I'm pronouncing
You can call me
your
Andreas. Everyone
Andreas.
call me Andreas.
Okay. So yes, Andreas, it was a wonderful session with you where we learned so much, and thank you for sharing so many links with the filmmakers and with us also, because as a film festival we are also facing so many problems when it comes regarding the music which we want to show. So we have to exclude some of the films because of this copyright issues.
Yeah, it's very sad.
Yeah. So some of the films are really good films which we wanted to share, but due to this copyright claim, it's difficult for us to do though. So once again, Andreas, thank you. Thanks a lot for taking your time and joining for this masterclass. And thank you all the attendees for going through the masterclass so patiently. And before concluding the session, I wanted to inform you once again that in the evening we are having another masterclasses. From 3:30, we will have a masterclass by the German Swiss filmmaker and the president of Elephant in Not Elephant in Need from Switzerland, Miss Brigitte Kornatsky, and she will be talking with us regarding science filmmaking. Is your passion, provoke the change? Because one thing that is sure, and Andreas is also nodding his head, that without passion you cannot make films. So making a film, passion is at most important. So you have to search out your passion. So Miss Brigitte will be talking about this passion and how the passion can provoke the change. So please do join us here only, this very link at 5:30, and then from 3:30, and then from 5 o'clock we had another wonderful masterclass with the National Award winner filmmaker Miss Aarti Srivastava. She will be joining us from Mumbai and Chennai, and she will be talking with us regarding the science filmmaking and the storytelling. So she will be talking in detail about the art of storytelling. So thank you again, Andreas, for becoming a part of this masterclass. And thank you, everyone. And we look forward to have you in the evening classes and another classes also. Thank you. Have a good day.
Anytime. Good luck with everything. And
Yes.
Thank you, Diksha Sonar, for subscribing. And I wish all of you all the best. And stay safe out there. And I hope to see